Hey, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Rage, and we are back today with an overview of the best raid teams right now in the game that's going to get you all the way to the end game content for the two daily raids that we're doing day in, day out. I want to go through the two main types, walk you guys through in case you're newer to the game as well. But for those of you that are unaware, there's two main types that we're dealing with usually, which is the Chaotic Storm, the usage of green energy there, and then the Spotlight raids, which is typically the purple energy. Now, why I want to bring this up is because I do see that there's probably going to be a new raid team coming in the way of the Spotlight raids, and usually these ones are more featured for showcase kind of teams, especially since we haven't seen a new one being added for quite some time. So I want to go through that real quickly, but as well, for each of the teams that we're going through, my investments, what's allowed me to actually get all the way to the highest difficulties, as you can see, difficulty 5 for Chaotic Storm and difficulty 2 for the Spotlight. And these teams, I want to also bring up which ones are possibly on the way out, because we need to be mindful of the changing meta, and given how fast we can see some of the new teams getting introduced in Marvel Strike Force, you definitely want to be mindful of these investments, because sometimes if we do see that there's going to be a changing of the guards here, further investment into a said team may not be necessary if we can anticipate this coming up. So again, guys, you want to be focusing on both these types of raids because they give you different type of rewards. Chaotic Storm has definitely been one of the more limited opportunities here for additional intel, T4s, but more importantly, the sought after gear tier 20, because that allows us to gear up our characters all the way to the max as of right now in terms of what the game currently allows. It's Spotlight, similar story. I mean, it doesn't give you to the same magnitude of the Chaotic Storm, but there's still a little bit of gear tier 19 resources actually trickled here. We can see there's ability for T4s and a bit of gold, but definitely not as meaningful. If you guys were to spend your time and attention, I definitely would focus more on the Chaotic Storm, just because that's going to be building, 5 really foundational types of teams in your roster that can actually help elevate you to this day-to-day progression. And then ultimately working your alliance to maximize on these rewards. So with the Chaotic Storm, there's 5 types, right? If you go through the different sections, there's going to be 5 types that we'll talk about real quickly. That's going to be consisting of the different traits. Whereas the Spotlight, usually they feature 1 or 2 kind of specific teams. And this is why I see this one actually being changing over quite soon here, because we haven't had a new team in quite some time. And that's why I think the last one was the Uncanny Avengers team. And that's why I think we do need to be mindful of a new team potentially getting added either in the next patch or the following, where that's probably going to be the requirement that we need to build up. And that's why we usually need to be aware of this, because with these required teams, you can't really participate in this game mode unless you have that set team actually invested in. Okay, so without further ado, guys, let me walk you through all the teams I'm using in the raids right now. There's 7 teams in total, but we'll also talk about real quickly here the versions I use that it's kind of best for investment right now, and then we'll talk about which ones are possibly on the way out, because that's what I care about, and that's how I best prepare, especially if you're free to play like myself. So remember, when with the Chaotic Storm raid teams, there's 5 types. We'll talk about that real quickly, and then we'll talk about the Spotlights, and then we'll talk about which teams are possibly on the way out. So tech section for Chaotic Storm, we have the Orcus team here. I really, really like this team because they have value in all game modes. Dark Dimension can progress further in there to get some of those big mythic character unlocks, but more importantly as well, 3 out of these 5 characters here I actually brought into my Age of X global villains progression here. So that was actually Sentinel, Nimrod, and Lady Deathstrike. A bit of tech gear being invested in, but highly recommend, because they have so much synergy with each other, and you're just gonna get a lot of value from them, not just beyond raids, but as well the other game modes where you can benefit from, including War and even Crucible as well. We have the next section being the Night Stalkers team, mainly utilized for the Mystic section of the Chaotic Storm raids. Now, you'll see that there's a couple of characters on my roster here that's not quite built up, especially that obvious one being Man-Thing, because the nice thing about the Mystic section is there's other strong characters that we can utilize, like No, Mephisto, Odin. So this one's probably the one where you can save a little bit if you only have a partial team invested in. I really like Oath and Night Stalker on the Night Stalker team in addition to Blade, because both of them also have the value of being city characters you can use for Age of X. So you can build them all the way to the max, which is really, really nice. But again, they're going to be carrying this team in addition to some of the other characters I mentioned. But you don't necessarily need the full team invested in if you want to save on some resources there. For the bio section of these raids, we have Thunderbolts being the newest raid team. So this team right here is probably going to have the longest staying value, with them being the most recent and up to date. So feel free to fully invest in this team. As you can see, I took a bit of shortcuts there with Taskmaster and Ghost because right now, currently, the 3 characters in the middle there with Hyperion, Songbird, and Victorian Hand, they're getting it done without the other 2 being fully invested in. So I'm just taking advantage of the savings I can. And at the same time, they're able to sim all the nodes with no issues there. So great investment overall. And again, we don't have their full farmability just yet because you can purchase them with Intel, but they haven't been added into the game in more of a popular manner. So regardless, they're still getting the job done for Bile. So highly recommend. And again, long staying value with them being the most recent. Vigilante for the skill section, they are the second most recent. So this is actually one of the best all-rounder teams in the game right now. Highly recommend you guys building this up as high as you can, because you can see even with characters that are less used like Elektra and Punisher, I still brought them up because they've been amazing for the negative zone. They have amazing value in all the other game modes, including the PvP aspect, but as well even assisting in some of their counterparts in the legendary trial events too. So this is these 2 teams right now, Vigilante and Thunderbolts, are 2 that you definitely want to focus on, with them being most recent, and usually in this game the newer teams are the better teams. Lastly, the mutant section for the Chaos raids, definitely the one that's going to be on the way out for sure. And you can see I actually use a different version here of it. This is not the typical Extreme X-Men because I've slotted in Jean Grey and Old Man Logan. It's kind of the better version of this team. They synergize really well. Jean Grey having a little bit of value as part of being a Spotlight raid team as well. We'll talk about that in a bit. But yeah, I definitely see this one as the next one out for respectively the raids for Chaos. Just because of the fact that we've already started using a bit of hybrid synergies here, and this was actually going to be the one that was likely to be replaced, but then we obviously saw changes with skill and Bile. So this is definitely a team that's on the way out, and be on the lookout for that. You may not want to fully invest in this team anymore, or maybe just using some sort of hybrid, as you see here, to get the job done. So as long as you're able to truck through and get what you needed from an alliance perspective. Now, let's talk about quickly here the Spotlight raid teams. Alpha Flight, and as well as the Uncanny Avengers here. As you can see, not a lot of investment, mainly on the newest characters, or in my opinion, the ones that I feel are the most important. This is still able to get the job done, and even though right now I do feel my Alpha Flight's a little under leveled, but it's still able to get the job done, albeit a little bit more trickier sometimes with the RNG for myself, but I feel like I'm in a good place right now where they're currently at, and this is the investment that I'm currently seeing that works for myself. Again, you can push them up higher if you just want to be simming at a success rate that's more consistent. But guys, the Spotlight raid is actually the raid I see the next team coming up here, because Alpha Flight is very long overdue. They've been in the game for well over a year now, and we're at the time where the next team likely will be replacing this team. So thankfully, if you guys haven't built up Alpha Flight as high, or maybe yours is even a little higher than mine, it's okay to leave it at that, because that's where I would draw kind of the red line, if you will, to caution that investment. Uncanny Avengers is the most recent Spotlight team, but they also have other values and different team synergies working in War and Crucible with obviously the Immortal X-Men. So I definitely see this, still having a little bit of value, but not a crazy amount. But I like the fact that Jean Grey, Falcon, as well as Hercules can be slotted into different teams, and that's why they get a little bit of added value there. So what I see coming up in terms of changes, guys, it's actually the 2 teams that you see on screen here. The X-Men / Mutant team for Chaotic Storm raids, which you see with Extreme X-Men, is the one I would caution you guys on maybe pausing or cautiously building, because you can work through with some hybrid teams, especially Old Man Logan leading that charge. He is a very relevant character and one of the best legendaries in the game. And then Alpha Flight, this is the other one I would caution as well. And that's why you see my investment, being very careful here, because these are the 2 teams that are likely going to be replaced in the coming months here, and will change over as a part of a requirement. So hopefully this is helpful, guys. This is everything that's up to date right now for an end game player, but otherwise everything else that you've seen on screen I do feel pretty safe on right now in the foreseeable future. But otherwise I'll be making these updates from time to time to keep you guys up to date. So let me know what you think, comments below if I missed anything. Thank you for your time as always, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.